If you're desperate on healing your acne and wondering how your diet and nutrition can help you influence the healing process, then in this episode we are going to reveal the 7 acne-promoting foods. Hi, this is Zia and this is
Kamana, and welcome to Holistic Nomads TV,
where ancient wisdom and modern science can help you to have more clarity and energy in your life. Today's topic is something that is really personal to me, personal in terms of I go through this healing experience, and it's something that I've been struggling for many years. So what's interesting though is that when it comes my healing process for acne, growing up in teenage puberty years, I don't actually have acne. Until 2010, I have my very first acne that never disappeared ever since. So I met you in 2013, so for that 3 years, I just don't do anything. I don't know how to heal it apart from, there's something probably wrong with my cosmetics, and never thought any correlation between acne and my diet. So today is something that I believe many people in the world, and let's say Indonesian, because this information that we're going to share is still uncommon, probably find it shocking about the correlation between the things that we eat, our diet and nutrition, and how that affects our health, but specifically acne. So you ready to move on from the class?
Sure, I'm ready to share about acne.
Great. Okay, so first of all, how diet can even influence acne in the first place?
The first one we need to look at with the relationship of diet and acne is how foods move through the system and how they can move out towards the skin. So as we start to digest foods, our Agni, our metabolic force, our transformative force, is breaking those foods down into smaller pieces. And if there is imbalances in that process, then those imbalanced digested foods, either larger size proteins or things that the immune system may react to, or excess sugar molecules, whatever those imbalanced digestion byproducts are, they move in towards the blood, and then they start moving throughout the system on the fluids here. And the fluids Ayurveda refers to as rasa, and here they're talking about plasma and lymph, blood and lymphatic fluid, and from there they're transported out towards the skin, and if they're not detoxified and brought back in towards elimination organs or used in the system, then the skin becomes a secondary detoxification organ. And in Ayurveda, we refer to this half-digested byproducts, the things that did not get so digested well, as ama. This ama, this toxin, this improper byproduct of digestion floods out through the system, and then the skin becomes a secondary layer. So here we're seeing that the skin can give us clues towards how healthy the function of the digestive system is.
Yeah, which is interesting, relating that to my experience on my very first acne that comes up is in 2010. So a little bit more background into that is I was just living in Turkey for around 2-3 months, and also Europe. And then the diet is so different, especially Turkish diet for me at that time, also because I was a student, living as cheap as I can. Their diet is very oily, very, very meaty, and lots of yogurt and dairy. So in Indonesia, we don't really eat much of fat in that quantity, like oil and meat, and especially yogurt and dairy. They put yogurt and dairy everywhere, basically. So after living there, we're gonna insert some photos before and after. How my weight basically increased around 5 kilos, and 5 kilos for me was big because it was just fluids. Yeah. And then not only that, then I start having acne, but a very specific area in the face, which is around the forehead and around, what you call here?
Between the eyebrows.
Between the eyebrows. Mm-hmm. And that's never disappeared ever since. Of course, one disappear, and then but straight away something come up again, disappear, something come up again. So later I knew that from you on how is my digestions, because at that time it was super hot, it was summer, we are later going to correlate that with liver function. But in this case, how there's this excess of AMA, toxin byproduct, that I'm not able to digest because of the heavy diet in that culture that I just not adjusted.
Yeah. So here we've seen our first relationship of digestion to the skin and how that moves through. And our second relationship to acne is liver. When we get imbalanced digestive byproducts, AMA and other dosha, disease-forming products that move into the blood, the liver has to deal with all of that. It's like the secondary digestive organ. First, we have our digestive tract for major food, and then we have the liver transforming and digesting all the things that have made it to the blood. So in Zia's case here, all of that excess that was not being properly digested in the digestive tract was then burdening the liver, and the liver was trying to deal with that. And where the acne was presenting on the body gives us clues to the fact that the liver was overburdened. This area between the eyebrows here and just above on the lower part of the forehead is a liver diagnostic area in both Ayurveda and Chinese medicine, and I'm sure other traditional medicine systems as well. So the fact that a lot of acne was building up here was showing that her liver was no longer able to process the amount of half-digested byproducts, largely coming from the deep fry and excess meat in that cultural diet for her.
Was good though, tongue-wise, but
Tongue-wise, and you paid the price for many years.
Yes. So later, soon we're gonna talk about these 7 acne-promoting foods.
Yep.
But before that, I also want to share about how after I changed my diet to one of by eliminating several of these of the 7 acne-promoting foods, that part disappeared. And then I noticed before I eliminate more foods, then another acne coming out, but in different parts of the face.
Yeah.
And until I eliminate and cut that other, nutrition food from my diet, then it's still there. So it's really interesting that what I want to say to our audience and anyone who watched this class is that the change takes time. Sometimes people just want to stop it, and then the next day or in a month's time it can change for so many years. I first knew about it in 2013, so that's 5 years ago.
Yeah.
And then to build a new habit of eliminating the food and not having that craving, to eat that as part of your diet, that's also another challenge, another topic on its own. 2
years. Yep, 2 years to start following the diet more strongly.
Yeah. We have another video that we will put on the link below on how to handle your cravings and diet, because I think that relates a lot with this topic. So let's talk through the 7 acne.
I just want to talk about what you were just saying there as well, because I think it's really relevant to see that it went from acne that was here in the liver area, and once we started to balance that, it went to acne that was on the cheeks here, and the cheeks are a diagnostic zone for the inner digestive tract. So we went from the primary, deeper internal organs, the more serious condition that was presenting and giving symptoms out here. And once we started to balance that, liver function was restoring. The body then gave us clues that now the digestive system needed to be worked on. And here, as Zia is saying, it can take time with this. The bacterial balance inside the flora can take up to 2 years to get back to what it was after taking antibiotics. So if that's after taking antibiotics, which strips out negative bacteria, it could be just as long or longer if we have a whole proliferation of challenging bacteria that's present in there before we're able to start to rebalance that. And we've seen that change over time, and now it's also starting to clear on the cheeks as well.
Yeah. Again, need to highlight the importance of patience when it comes to healing, and especially healing using this traditional holistic method of Ayurveda or Chinese medicine, that change takes time.
Yeah, it takes time, but low side effects and great mental happiness long term.
Yeah, there you go, long term sustainable change. That's what we're looking for here.
And the other thing within the functionality of the body is the relationship between the liver and the hormonal systems. The liver does a lot of the transformation functions for hormones. So if your acne is related to hormone and your menstrual cycle, it tends to have some influence there. If we enhance liver function, it enables the body to deal with any imbalanced hormonal function much better better at the same time too. So when we go through these 7 foods here, we're really looking at a functional relationship in the body. Not necessarily that these foods directly influence acne, but more that they influence the overall function of the systems which control and influence acne.
Yeah. So before we talk through these 7 acne promoting foods, this is the 7 foods that I found for my own healing acne experience is the one for me.
Direct experience.
Yeah. So it doesn't necessarily mean this can apply to your life, to other people's life, but maybe try it out, because we found out about these 7 foods after not only I trial it for like many weeks, like for example, oh, let's try this substance. This 1 week, delete that. How does that change? And also we try with a machine called bioresonance machine and kinesiology. So like really after a lot of test and trial and error.
So we'll give you these 7 foods, and they'll be good places to start, and we'll also give you some information on how you can test yourself and know which ones work best for you.
Great. So the first one is my favorite. This was difficult to eliminate this one, and that is dairy.
Yeah, so dairy is big for a lot of Asian descendants, especially Southeast Asians, have as much as an 80% intolerance to dairy products. That's huge when we think about that. Those tests have been done in America, so we're really looking at migrated Asians that have moved to America there. Yet the Asian population really doesn't digest dairy so well. Dairy's thick and heavy and cold and damp, so we're looking at cheese and milk and ice cream and all of those. It tends to form armor, half-digested byproducts, easier than other foods. Doesn't mean that dairy is a bad food. It means that overall it's much easier to overburden the system, and if you're sensitive to it and reacting to it, especially if you have Asian descendancy or African descendancy as part of your genetic heritage, then you could react to those foods much easier, creating an immune cascade. And for Zia, it's her major. She could eat cheese and the next day she will straight away be presenting in a very specific type of more thick, harder pimple that we know comes from a kapha type food like dairy and cheese.
And also pussy.
Pussy,
Yeah.
All kapha qualities there. If you're not sure what that means, watch the video on kapha qualities.
So the next food is again another favorite of mine. That is deep fried foods. Now before I say anything, I would say dairy and this is the 2 most difficult ones to eliminate, because it has so much attachment with it. Like dairy, for example, as dominant vata that is dry and so airy, dairy is such an instant way for me to feel grounded, to feel love, fake love, Jesus, dairy. Short-term love. And then, because it's so nourishing and that heavy. And then deep fried, for me, it also somewhat gives that sense of like balancing for my vata mentally, because it's a food that I have emotional ties to it. So as Indonesian and Sundanese, my ethnic group, we eat a lot of things deep fried. So anyway, can you explain a little bit more about that?
Deep fry, it's fried hydrogenated oils that are there. They tend to create a lot of pressure for the liver. Then the liver makes it difficult to do with a lot of other functions. Oils tend to move out towards the skin quite easily when they're not digesting well too. So this is a major one, and this is not so much about the individual, whereas the dairy can be much more individually suited, whereas deep fry will be everyone. It will start to aggravate those symptoms, and eventually, if it hits your excess amount, will really aggravate the skin as one of its signs. So it creates armor, pitta, and the liver.
Great. Not great.
Great to avoid it for you.
Great. That's one of the most difficult ones. Next one is hard to digest oil, and especially palm oil. Now, why we would like to highlight palm oil in the first place?
Mainly because it's a heavy, hot, hard to digest oil that can be very beneficial in small amounts. And the other reason I highlight it is because it is the most used oil in Southeast Asia. It's the cheapest oil that they can possibly afford afford, and it's used so much throughout restaurants and cooking. I'm not saying you need to avoid it completely. That's not the moral here. The moral here is to just try and reduce it at home and to use some other oils that have more of a neutral temperature. We're talking about its thermal nature in the body, like olive oil, sesame oil, and not something that's so hot, heavy and hard to digest, which tends to congest the liver as well.
Yeah. Very, very hard. I make a jokes often with my friends that if I go back to my hometown, I will bring a gift for myself, and that is acne, because it was still hard to, you know, eat out and not eating deep fry, and especially palm oil, because that is just so very common.
Yeah.
So
every time she comes back from the hometown, the acne is way worse again.
Yeah. So next one. This one is also difficult to avoid because it's kind of like present in many things nowadays, and that is sugar. So how sugar even relates to acne?
Sugar has a very interesting metabolic process in the body. So first we look at it as a prebiotic. A prebiotic means that it's the food on which bacteria live off in your digestive tract. So we all need a certain amount of sugars in order to have a good functioning bacteria in the digestive tract. It's not bad. We need some sugars in the diet. Yet if they become excessive, large amounts of sugars enter the system, then certain bacteria and fungus tend to get out of control, particularly candida and some other types of bacteria that are not so favorable for the whole system. They become out of control. We have a lot of inflammatory byproducts. We have a lot of stress that goes on the liver. Every time blood sugar levels rise, then the liver has to mop that up and try and convert that excess blood into that excess sugar into stored sugar, into glycogen they call it, this stored fuel inside the body. So it gives the liver lots of work every time sugars go high. And here we're not just talking about adding sugar to something, we're really talking about hidden sugars that happen so much in our modern world. And our peak of this is probably sodas. And just as an example, a Coca-Cola is 10% sugar. So in one can of Coca-Cola, we're looking at 9.5 teaspoons. Really get that through your head for a minute. Think of putting 9.5 teaspoons into a cup, and then drinking that down, 9.5 teaspoons in one can. If you were to have a couple of soft drinks over the day, it's no wonder that it creates a whole cascade of imbalance, which could be acne and many other things. Stress on the digestive system, stress on the liver, and then it will cascade from there to a lot of other functional problems.
Next one, food number 5, like a song, which is chili. Why chili? Chili is like my favorite thing. It's like end of the world.
So chili in small amounts will not affect acne for most people. In fact, it'll be beneficial because hot, pungent substances tend to break up armor, tend to break up these half-digested byproducts throughout the system. Yet chili in the doses that most Asian cultures eat it, and the way that Zia was eating it before, it tends to be hot and aggravate the digestive function. Imagine you're trying to cook something on a stove, and when you throw in chili in a high amount, it's like the gas just got turned up really intensely. You're more likely to burn the food and overcook it. So tiny little bits of chili can be great for the digestive system. But if it's at the point where you're feeling any sort of sweat or heat on the forehead, or you're really noticing heat in the belly from it afterwards, it's definitely beyond your digestive capacity, and it's likely going to create a disrupted digestive system, which leads to the cascade through the liver and onwards.
Yeah, I want to highlight that the way Zia eat it. Because let's say I eat soup, and then I ask the chef to like make it spicy, and then it comes spicy. I haven't tried it, and I already asked, give me extra chili. It's just like, seriously, my chili addiction is so bad. And then I just want to add a little bit about how then I successfully eliminate and cut down chili, is to actually really go down to the root, of why do I even eat chili in the first place. I think we already talked about this in the addiction part, is that for me, chili, same with the fried foods, has emotional attachment towards it, because it's something that I will share with my mom, something that my ethnic group eat it a lot. And then so it's, at the same time, it's because I've been eating it since I was little. It's so, ingrained deep within me. So now if I eat chili just a little bit or deep fry just a little bit, my body just reacts straight away because I already kind of like finishing my quota of chili for the rest of my life in 20 years of my life in the beginning. So yeah, chili, unfortunately, I need to say goodbye. Next one is flour product. Now this is also difficult because we Asian, we love to eat noodles. Yeah. So tell me more about it.
Noodles, breads, anything that comes from a flour product, unfortunately in our modern day times, they're usually oxidized. So we're not saying flour products that are freshly milled are bad. We're saying flour products, which is almost all of your commercial produced products, will be milled into flour 6 to 9 months often before they're used to make a noodle, before they're used to make bread. And that oxidation process creates a lot of free radicals. The liver has to deal with those free radicals. It tends to create inflammatory processes in the body which can increase acne. It's just giving the liver and the body more work to do. Now there's some great places that can give freshly milled bread, freshly milled, making the noodles or the pasta themselves. They're not very common, but one of my great friends in Australia, Shandor, has a business that's making bread that's freshly milled on the Sunshine Coast in Noosa, and there's multiple of those in different parts of Europe and around the world. I hope those things start up more in Asia as well, and we're not just looking at old rancid flour products all of the time.
So is that related just with flour, all type of flour, or will that like gluten flour, or will it be okay with like rice flour or buckwheat flour like soba?
Any flour product, if it's been milled into flour, it's got more surface area, which means more oxygen can access it, which means it starts to oxidize quicker. So we're probably looking at a 1 to 3 month window ideally of when it's milled into flour. Now this really depends on how it's stored, and is it stored in a cool environment? Is it really airtight from the moment that it was milled? And generally they're not the principles that are being taken care of in flour, though flour can be stored in Hessian bags in the Australian example, and won't necessarily be stored in fridges or freezers or things that are going to keep it cool for a longer period of time.
And the last one, this is also another favorite of mine. Everything is favorite of mine. Is that a sign? Probably because I've been eating, a lot of it that makes me acne.
Possibly. I think we could list any food though, and it might be a favorite of yours.
Food is whether good or great.
Yeah,
there's nothing like so-so. I mean, there's some that is so-so. Anyway, the last one is peanuts.
Peanuts.
Peanut butter. It's so tasty.
Super tasty, super heavy, super hard to digest, super oily. So those things for Zia are very easy to access on those qualities. So she needs to have a little bit of those in her life, those qualities, but we need to look at what are the easiest to digest forms. So specifically for her, we look at this principle called Satmya. And Satmya means individually suited to the person. It's an Ayurvedic word. And in Zia's case, a lot of the foods that we've gone through don't have Satmya in relation to their oil content. Hard to digest fats and oils are very difficult for her. And then that presents on the skin when that's getting overburdened. So if that's something that you're interested in testing, then I highly recommend bioresonance testing. We'll be able to nut that out. Or an IgG, if there's an immune system allergy, an IgG allergy test can help with that. If you're interested to find out where, you can let us know. We'll try and provide a link within the content here. And
talking about Satmya, something that is your unique individuality have sensitivity, would you also say that each Ayurvedic dosha, Badita, Vata, Pitta, Kapha, then have a sensitivity on certain foods that then will create, have a tendency to create acne for them?
Yeah. Each dosha will have a likely category of food sensitivity that could take place.
Yes.
As a generalization, Vata's food sensitivities are protein-based. As a generalization, Pitta's food sensitivities are fats and oil-based. As a generalization, Kapha's food sensitivities are carbohydrate-based. Yet they are big generalizations. In the case of Zia, her liver is not able to process Kapha and Pitta dominant foods. So they may not be a body type constitution. It may not be, because you're Pitta Vata, therefore you're going to react to those foods. It may be that those foods that are Pitta or Vata dominant don't digest so well for you. So it could be a little complex unless you're doing a consultation with someone to figure that out. Your body type may give you a good generalization, Being Vata dominant means, oh, I need to be aware of proteins. It doesn't mean don't eat them. It means find out which ones digest really well for you. Being Pitta dominant, I need to be aware of oils. It doesn't mean don't eat them. Olive oil is super needed for Pitta to balance itself, but certain oils, especially deep fry, palm oil, they're going to aggravate Pitta really easily. And for Kapha, carbohydrates. Again, it doesn't mean don't eat them. Find out which ones work really well for you. Maybe it's pumpkin, a little bit of sweet potato and some millet or something. They could be great for Kapha.
So if you would like Kimana's help on how to heal your acne holistically, and because you also mentioned about this test, several tests kit, or who you need to refer to.
If you need those tests prescribed to you, then you can consult with me as well.
On the caption below, there's a link to submit your name and email so that you'll be on the waiting list when Kimana is available for the next online consultation. Anything else you would like to add?
Great to share with you all. I really hope you share this information with the world. It's the reason we share it, because we know it's valuable and can change so many people's lives. So until next time, all the best.
Now, theory without practice is wasteful, because hearing leads to forgetting, teaching leads to remembering, and applying leads to mastering. That's why we will encourage you to leave a comment below and share one learning insight from this video. Also, if you like this video, make sure to like and subscribe so you will be the first to hear about our future educational videos. And for more resources on health and healing, check out our website holisticnomads.com. There you will find articles, quizzes on Ayurveda, loads of free downloads, and of course our future events and courses. Thank you so much for watching. We hope it's been beneficial for you. Hope to see you next week. Bye! Hi! Gimana?